Nuclear arms race in the Baltic. Russian and NATO decision cycles. The Ukraine war created unintended consequences to the world order as Russia and its allies and the West and its allies are in a decision cycle that can be described as an OODA, O-O-D-A, loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. The current loop cycle dates to the Cold War era, but in the near term, if the Russian invasion is the start of a new observation step, then the loops include the West sending handheld anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles to Ukraine, all the way to the point that France is discussing sending troops to Ukraine. In between these steps, NATO has added Finland and Sweden as members, who declared they joined due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The adding of these two nations has made the Baltic into a near NATO lake, but has more importantly made the Baltic region of NATO having a common border with Russia, and has made the Baltic region the most likely flashpoint of a Russian-NATO conflict. The focus in the Baltic between Russia and NATO has led towards a nuclear rearmament race in the region. The primary area of Russian nuclear rearmament in Belarus, Kaliningrad, and near the Finnish border. Belarus is an independent country but is highly reliant on Russia and is a supporter of Russia's Ukraine invasion. Belarus allowed Russia to use its territory early in the war to invade Ukraine and threaten the Ukraine capital of Kyiv, so Belarus has been a steadfast ally of Russia. The president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, agreed to station Russian tactical nuclear weapons in his country due to what he described as the threat from Poland, a NATO member, and its support of Ukraine in its war against Russia. The more likely reason is that Russian President Vladimir Putin and his allies have threatened nuclear war against the West and its actions in Ukraine. The deployment of tactical nuclear weapons to Belarus was a move to add more weight to Putin's threats. The deployment of nuclear weapons was completed in December 2023, with an unspecified number of weapons relocated. Belarus is also building facilities to support Russian Iskander nuclear-capable missiles to be stationed on its territory, as well as Russian promises to upgrade Belarus's air force with new fighters capable of delivering nuclear weapons. The other area that is suspected of having nuclear weapons, but is neither confirmed nor denied, is in the Russian enclave of Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad does not have a common border with Russia, but instead shares a border with NATO member countries of Poland and Lithuania, as well as having water access to the Baltic Sea. Kaliningrad is vulnerable to pressure from NATO, but can also be a hindrance to NATO by denying access to the eastern flank by sea and can threaten the land bridge from Poland to the NATO Baltic countries of Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. Kaliningrad has the nuclear-capable Iskander missiles, but there is no declaration that these missiles are nuclear-armed. However, Russia does maintain a nuclear weapons storage site in the enclave and has spent the last 2 years upgrading this site, which is about 30 miles or 50 kilometers from the Polish border. The final Baltic focus region for Russia is its announcement that press has announced the formation of a new missile brigade in Karelia near the Finnish border. The brigade will be armed with the Iskander missile as well, and the Russian media announced the purpose of this brigade is a response to Finland joining NATO. Finland has been experiencing hybrid threats from Russia since joining NATO, with the most significant is Russia taking migrants from Syria, Yemen, and Somalia and sending them to the Finnish border to claim asylum. Finland, in return, closed its border with Russia. The Finnish government's position to this threat is to wait and see attitude and to see if the missile brigade forms, and if this is just a threat from Russia that does not deserve a response. NATO has criticized the Russian decision, but has not taken any concrete steps to Russia's strategy of moving nuclear weapons closer to the frontier with NATO. Turkey, recognizing the issue, in its attempt to restart peace talks to end the Ukraine war, has added the need for the U.S. and Russia to re-enter the START treaty to stop the escalation of introducing nuclear weapons. On the other hand, France's President Emmanuel Macron responded to Russia's threat of using nuclear weapons by stating that France and NATO also have nuclear weapons and are ready to use them. NATO is discussing a step towards responding to Russia's moving of nuclear weapons and nuclear-capable missiles being moved closer to NATO. Poland's President Andrzej Duda stated that Poland is ready to host U.S. nuclear weapons on its territory in response to Russia. President Duda stated that Poland would take them if NATO decided on a policy of reinforcing its eastern flank. This statement, in its wording, indicates that Poland is pushing for the deployment of nuclear weapons to its territory in response to Russia's decision to move nuclear weapons closer to Poland into Belarus and apparently Kaliningrad. Poland has been considered a critic of Russia and is a potential threat in the Baltic region even before the invasion of Ukraine. Poland was in the process of building up its armed forces prior to the invasion and has accelerated those plans after the invasion. Poland has stated to have the largest army in Europe and has made progress towards that goal. Poland has also been one of the staunchest supporters of Ukraine in its war with Russia as it presses for more aggressive response to Russia and more aid to be provided to Ukraine. Poland has also taken a significant number of Ukrainian refugees that have been displaced by the war. Poland's declaration of willing to take nuclear weapons and stating that it has been in talks with the United States over the issue. Poland has also been requesting that its Air Force be trained and certified to deliver U.S. nuclear weapons. The U.S. currently only has B-61 nuclear gravity bombs in Europe, and it does certify some European powers to have what's called dual capable aircraft (DCA) that can deliver both nuclear and conventional bombs. Poland has requested that its Air Force be trained by the U.S. to be classified as aircraft for DCA. The F-35 Lightning II has recently been certified as such a platform, and Poland is scheduled to take delivery of 32 F-35s starting in 2024. Russia has threatened retaliation against Poland if it hosts nuclear weapons on its soil, but did not specify what that retaliation would be. Poland has cited its reasons by Belarus's Lukashenko to accept Russian nuclear weapons due to its perceived threat to Russia, and Belarus over its aggressive advocacy for Ukraine's defense. Poland has strongly advocated for bolstering the Baltic theater and has been a target of Russian threats in the past, but this did not deter it from making the announcement that it is willing to host nuclear weapons. Decisions by NATO and Russia prior to the war created a situation that the war was possible in Ukraine. Once the war was initiated, the preceding OODA loops has led to the point that both Russia and NATO have upped the ante to not only threaten nuclear retaliation against each other, but to make the physical step to move nuclear weapons or capable systems closer to the Baltic frontier. It cannot be simply stated that the world is walking into a new Cold War, which can be perceived as true, but the Cold War in Europe never experienced a large land war on the continent as being experienced now. A hot war has more rapid action-reaction times in the OODA loop than a Cold War that gives time and space to observe and make the next decision with the time to make a thoughtful, rational decision that is less likely in a hot war. Thus, the threats and actions over nuclear capability and delivery increase the stakes if a reaction to the war requires a quick and possibly hasty reaction that can be a rash decision. The Ukraine war and the moving of forces closer together, including nuclear forces, puts the world in a new territory that has not been experienced in the Cold War, with the cost of missteps being dramatically greater.